What's going on, guys? It's Frito here for your Overwatch. The April Fool's patch is out, and while there is a lot of silliness, a lot of fun to be had on the new crazy, wacky, experimental changes, I wanted to pick out a handful of them that I think actually have viability to be used in the game. The first one I really like is Doomfist now gets an empowered melee when he uses his ultimate. Now, this one in specific is way overtuned just for the April Fool's patch, but I like the idea in principle. This version basically makes his melee into another gauntlet punch, which is over the top and almost as good as Zenyatta's snap kick. But the reason I like this idea is because I think it could be used maybe not even just on Doomfist, but any character in general that's having balance issues. Adding status effects or some empowered melee is a cool idea. It's another balancing lever they can use to give an interesting niche to that character's melee. And in Doomfist's case, it fits with his fantasy as well. Maybe instead of a stun and a huge knockback, maybe it prolongs the concussed effect from the ultimate, let's say, sets them up for further combos. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. Even just a bit of extra damage with the empowered melee would be cool enough. I like it because getting in melee range in Overwatch is already implying you've kind of outplayed the enemy in some way. I don't think it feels unfair that Queen's Blade bleeds you a little bit when you get meleeed by Gracie. In the same way, if some of Doomfist's more obnoxious elements was put onto his normal melee or empowered melee, I think it could smooth out the experience. Now, we could consider it applied to other heroes as well. That one's a bit more general. Some of these other ones I think I've picked out because the hero could utilize some extra changes and complexity. Reinhardt has been feeling particularly outdated in the modern era of the game. Of course, they tried to adjust his abilities from the more stiff playstyle of Overwatch 1 into 2, but he's still lagging behind as the old man of the tank category. This crazy set of changes allows for him to have some pretty nuts skill expression to drain some of his shield health to reflect projectiles back. Now, he doesn't get to aim them like a Genji reflect. Maybe that would be too OP, I don't know. But this is the kind of thing I think the devs should be looking at when it comes to a modernized Reinhardt rework that they definitely should be doing. Added layers of complexity. A lot of the other heroes in the game, just in general, but in the tank category as well, have lots of buttons to push and more options. Whereas Reinhardt works right now as a bit of boom or bust counterpick, not really as like a stable tank that you can master. Because he gets countered too easily, and he succeeds at countering some things, but not much. So he's all in on that with little skill expression and diversity to his play. Oddly enough, because you can't really aim the projectiles, I'm not so sure if I think this is even strong enough. Okay, there's certain projectiles you can reflect with the shield, like an ultimate maybe. It would be insane reflecting ever. Totally OP, right? But in theory, if you could reflect damage back, but not a lot of it, an extremely condensed amount, let's say, but then you're hopeless without a shield afterwards because you can only really do it for a bit of damage with the way it's scaled right now. I don't even think it would be reliable in this current form. Now, this specifically, I don't think they should commit to because it's a little too gimmicky, but in general, I want a Reinhardt rework, something that adds an extra button or layers of complexity for outplay similar to this. But maybe not this specifically. The next change is to Winston. This one's pretty simple. Tesla Cannon and Primal Rage makes a lightning effect that chain lightnings through enemies. I like this one right now because when we went into the Season 9 overhaul, they buffed Winston's primary damage, but not his ult fire. So now his ult fire, which was already mediocre, is just straight up bad and basically useless. And I'm not sure why. At the very least, I think they should buff it up to the scaling of the primary fire, but I also don't think chain lightning would be that oppressive. Probably doesn't need it on his ultimate because it's already got so much potential if you're really good with it. And maybe it's just my hatred of AoE healing in the game, but when characters are stacking together, I kind of don't mind them all getting chain zapped by a little bit of damage. I think that's kind of fair and will give you some interesting options because you could target a certain enemy that's like easier to hit and then have ripple effects to someone that you're really trying to focus in the formation somewhere, maybe even in safety as they're running around a corner. It would make the alt fire actually good. And since Winston is not that hard to counter for most players anyway, until you get to super supreme levels where everyone's executing a lot better, I don't see this as a huge problem. Let's just add it to the game. Maybe this is because I've been grinding tank for a month that I feel this way. A little bit biased, perhaps. Next changes to Genji, similar in vein, where there's a skill shot component now added to his deflect, where he now can hit a parry attack, basically, where if you hit primary fire with perfect timing, you can critically deflect a projectile. What this means is you can hit double damage on a Pharah rocket if you hit the timing right. That's unbelievably cool and kind of not easy to do anyway. Now, the downside of this kind of change is it's really going to help players that were already top tier at Genji. So it's hard to like scale this kind of change throughout the ranks. But for the most part, for me, it's such a cool and rare outplay that even if it happens to you, you kind of just have to respect the complexity of it. And there's certain things that get mega crazy, like reflecting a Hanzo ultimate, which will then also deal critical damage, either with the arrow or the dragons, it seems. This one I think deserves some consideration just for the cool factor alone. And the last one, maybe we're biased on this channel because me and our editor Kale both play Junkrat, but this change allows you to detonate the frag launcher projectiles with secondary fire. But in our testing, I think this is just kind of fair and makes Junkrat consistent in spots where he would be kind of unusable. But in our testing, this doesn't feel like it would be overly overtuned. It would just make Junk less of a throw pick. There's a lot of duels as Junk that you have to hit the consecutive direct hits to have a chance. And especially in some matchups where you have to hit the target 3 times to even confirm the kill, having an airburst nade would help you do that. And honestly, getting the nade close enough to airburst it anyway is so close to a direct to begin with that the like 30 odd damage you're likely to do when, quote, missing it seems kind of negligible to me. But maybe there's heavy Junkrat bias in all of this. This certainly would make him a lot more consistent, but as one of the worst DPS in the game after the Season 9 health rework, I don't know if I think that's the worst timeline necessarily, especially as there's so many brawly, sustainy characters running around anyway. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave it a like. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon to actually get notified when our videos come out. You can check us out on Twitch as well, where we've been streaming most days of the week, currently doing a tank grind challenge to reach my career high. It's been quite a roller coaster, and I think I'm nearly on my way to finally make the final few sub tiers that I'm looking to gain. Give us a follow on Twitch as well. That's been it for me. I've been Frito for your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time. I didn't know you did that.
I didn't.
They're not exactly going.
Oh, you don't aim it. It goes with the curvature of the shield. If I shoot the corner, it bounces this way.
The thing's slow enough that I think you can just shoot at me and then I'll just react on my own time. Just shoot one. Okay. We'll just shoot one and then...
Oh, that's double damage. It's 240.
He actually says nom 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 for some reason.
Yeah, you can still do damage without directing.
That's kind of great. I mean, yeah. Totally fair. All right, Kale, what changes do you think they should keep out of these? Any of them?
All of them?
All of them, you think?
Out of all of them? Or
if you had to pick one that we don't have in the video yet, which one would you keep?
I think we should keep the manga changes.
What are they?
Make good neighbors.